one that says heart. That's the first one. And it sounds like that. So right from the start, with snares, we have a little bit more of harmonic content, right? And it's going to be, in the case of this one, 2 oscillators. Now, they can sound as a snare or make synth sounds. We have 2 main parts, the oscillators part, and then we have the noise part. And right here, we can see the noise level and the noise decay. And then as usual, we get the tick and we get the overdrive. So in this case, I'm going to remove the noise from the equation. I'm going to go all the way down on this one's, and I'm going to remove the tick. So if I play it, it's going to sound like that. So we get, the oscillator part of the machine and not the noise. So it doesn't sound like a snare. Sounds like something else. So noise is a very important part for snare, on an analog snare in this case. Just like before with the other machines, we have the steam, the sweep depth, and the decay. If I go up on the decay, it's gonna sound like an oscillator, like I told before. Now then, maybe we can go to the steam and decide. Maybe I'm gonna go. I'm gonna keep it up. With the steam, it's gonna be the sweep time, and all this. If you watch the previous sections for the snare, is going to decide the sweep time for the main tone. If I go all the way down and all the way down on this one, we just get the fundamental tone. But then we can make it sweep. And we already talked about this, but maybe you're just starting on this section. So this is how you control sweep. Now this one is going to be the depth. If I go all the way down up on this one, we are going really up. But if I go down in depth, we have no depth. So we are back to the initial tone. This is how far it goes with that sweep. Right, so I'm gonna reset the machine, and we are back to the original sound. All of these controls, again, the overdrive and the tune, they work just like the other machines we've been discussing. And right now, I'm just assuming that you know how these ones work, because most of the controls repeat themselves. And it wouldn't make sense for me to, keep explaining the same controls over and over and over and over in detail, right? So we get the other part, it's going to be, we get the oscillator, which is fine. We already know how it works. And then we get the noise side. This is going to be the level of the noise. If you want a lot of noise, you're just going to get it. Just like the oscillator, we get a decay, but this one is going to control the decay of the noise. Right, I'm going to remove the tick. So if we want less noise, we just go down in the noise. If we want shorter noise, we just trim the length of the noise. And just like this, you just fine-tune your snare the way you want to. Maybe you want a little bit more noise, well, make it longer. Maybe it's too loud, go down in volume. You want to crush it, you can. So it's a really cool machine. Right, so then you have the tick, and the tick is going to be the initial transient. If I go all the way down in noise, I go up in tick, we get less tick, right? So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to double tap, and I'm going to go to the next one. The next is going to be SD Classic. I'm going to stand there and make sure that we are starting, with a default sound. And this is how it Now, this one is really cool. Now, on the previous one, we had those two oscillators, but what happens with the other one is that we cannot control the oscillators separately. We cannot control them independently. We do it globally. Now, on this machine, the classic one, we can control them independently. And this is what, this machine will do. I'm going to go all the way down in the noise so we can remove that from the equation, and all the way down in the snap. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but it's, pretty obvious. So right here, you have your main tune. So this is going to be controlling the tune of your oscillator number 1. Now, then you have your oscillator number 2, and the oscillator number 2 by default is going to be detuned. So this detune is about the oscillator number 2. And I'm going to go all the way down. So here you have the valence. So if you go all the way here, all the way to, down, is going to be the oscillator number 1. If I go to the other side, it's going to be the oscillator number 2. And notice it sounds a little bit different than the oscillator number 2. It's just a little bit different. Now, the thing is that when you make a blend between, both, you can get both at the same time. But with this one, you can separate the oscillator number 2. And notice that if you see the spectrum, they're on the same spot. As soon as I detune it, the oscillator number 2 separates from the first one. And as we go up, right there, we see the oscillator 2 and then the peak, fundamental for the oscillator number 1. Now, all of this is just great because maybe we can generate sounds that are not snares. Maybe I can go up in pitch and we can get different sounds. Right, so really, really cool oscillator or machine in this case. And then again, you just need to find the sweet spot for the balance. If you want more of the 2 or if you want more of the 1. All right, so that's it. That's that's pretty much the whole machine. Now I'm gonna go to just what we have by default, and it is that now it sounds like a drum. I can bring a little bit more of the 2, and as we get the tone of the 2 right there at the top. And then, we decide how much noise we want and the decay of the noise. If we want it really long or we want a short noise. And the next thing is going to be the snap. If we want to remove the snap, it's going to be a little bit less. We don't have the transient at the beginning. And if you go up in the snap, we get it a little bit more. Right, and then we can crush it with the overdrive. So again, all of these controls are pretty simple because we know the previous machine. So if you're still a little bit confused and you don't know what's going on right here, make sure you watch the other, the sections for the other machines. All right, so let's go to the FM, and I'm going to make sure that we start with a clean machine. So as you can see, if I go back and I go all the way up, we can see with the bass drums, we are starting, with the oscillators and so on. And then at some point, we enter into the FM and the modulation world. Well, with the snare drums, it's just the same thing. We start easy, and then we enter into the FM world. So I'm going to be going to the SDFM. And this is how it sounds. So just like the bass drum, you know, the BSFM, we have a main oscillator, which is going to be the carrier that sits at the top. And at the bottom, we have a different oscillator, which is going to be the modulator. This is what is going to be modulating the carrier, right? So, okay, so everywhere again where we see FM, it means that it's talking about the modulator and not the carrier. So if I go to the FMA, it's going to be the amplitude of the modulator. So if I go down on this one, we are doing no modulation. So it sounds pretty dull. So we are just getting the noise and the fundamental tone of the main oscillator, which is the carrier. But as we go up on the FMA, is the amplitude of the modulator. We are starting to do FM. So this goes a lot more aggressive. Right. So the tune is going to be the tune for the main oscillator, and actually for both. But then this one is going to alter the ratios of the modulator. That's why we get different tones. So remember that when we are working with carriers and modulators, every time that we change something on the modulator, it's going to change the nature of the carrier. But this is, it's controlling the tune of the modulator. Now then we can control the decay of the modulator and the decay of the carrier. If I make it really long, that's the carrier. But this one is going to be the modulator. Now we can make it really short just to get, a tiny little transient at the beginning, and not make it super long because that will really affect the sound. So that's it. You get your controls right here, this one, and this one for your modulator, and you get your main controls for your carrier. And then at the bottom, since this is a snare, we get, I'm going to go back to default, you get the noise right here. We go up in noise. We need some noise, right? So this is a snare. If I go to this one, this is going to be the decay of the noise. And you can crush it if you wanted to. You can do a little bit less of a FM and make it sound a little bit more natural if you wanted to. So I'm gonna go to the next one, and it's the last of the snare drums, the analog snare drums. Now this one is super simple, the SD Natural. Now on this one you don't get a lot, it's just pretty simple. You have an oscillator and I'm gonna go to the next one, and it's the last of the snare drums, the analog snare drums. Now this one is super simple, the SD Natural. Now on this one you don't get a lot, it's just pretty simple. You have an oscillator and you have a noise. That's it. So right here you have your valence. It's going to be all the way down is going to be just the noise, and all the way up is going to be the oscillator, the fundamental, oscillator. And all of this machine, it's all about the noise. If you go right here, you just can control with the valence how much, of noise and oscillator you do, and then the decay of the main sound. But everything else, this one, and this one are going to be about the noise. So we need some noise. I'm going to go all the way down to noise. So if I do something like this, it is that it's very snappy. So what this gives you is the decay of the noise. If you want to make it really long, but also, and this is the main feature of this machine, is that you can high pass and low pass the noise. So you can generate different timbres, within the same noise. If I open everything, do no resonance, open everything, it's just gonna be a noisy noise. But you can maybe chop the low frequencies of the noise, and notice that we get it right there in the spectrum. And you can high pass the high frequencies of the noise and even add a little bit of resonance right there at the top, so we can add a peak. This is again the main feature of this machine. Now again, you just need to control it with the decay and then bring a little bit of your main tone, which is going to be, the main tone of your snare drum. Now all of this depends up to you. Maybe you want to make it a little bit lower, or maybe you want to make it a little bit higher. So you choose the balance right here between your sound, your noise, and your main oscillator. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the RS, which is going to be the rim shots, and they are very simple to understand. And if I play it, it sounds like, right? So super simple. Now you have your tune, you just can detune it as much as you wish. Going to funk, we can go all the way to the beginning, and all the rest of the controls, we already know them. We have a noise level and tick level, and for now I'm just going to go all the way down. You can go up in the decay and make it sound like something else. Then the sweep, if I go all the way down, we will have no sweep. And we can go and make the pitch sweep. How long is going to go? The depth is going to be this one. So if I do nothing, the time is just nothing. If I go all the way up, we can really hear the sweep. All right. So that's fine. It's just pretty simple controls. We've been using them throughout the whole, the whole video. Now then you get a noise, so you can get a little bit of noise, and at the same time you get a tick, so you get an initial transient. Now the noise is not super aggressive. Maybe I'm gonna go all the way down on the depth. If I go all the way up in the noise, now this is there, but it's just very mild. Maybe we crush it, we just can get it a little bit more, but the noise is just pretty mild. But if it's not there, we notice the difference. Alright? And the tick is going to give you that, initial transient that we get at the beginning. So again, this is a very basic type of rim shot. And the other one, the classic one, is going to be something like that. It's going to be simple, but we have a lot more controls. So just like on the previous one, this one works the same. We have a noise level, and for now I'm going to make sure that we stay on default. You have a noise level and a tick level. But this one is a little bit different because you have two oscillators. On the previous one, we cannot control the oscillators independently. On this one, we can do something like that. If I play it, notice that we get two main kind of a fundamental peaks on the spectrum. So it's going to be the oscillator number 1 and then the oscillator number 2. Now, this is the balance, how much of oscillator 1 or 2 you get. If I go all the way to the 1, we just get the oscillator number 1. And if I go to the 2, notice that this one sounds lower. Right? So by default, the 2 is going to be down in pitch and the 1 is going to be up in pitch. And what you need to do, you need to select the balance between them both. You know, which one you want the most, the lower or the higher. Still, you have a tune control on the first and the second one. So if I wanted to stand on the second one and pitch it, maybe I'm going to go to the other one and pitch it up or pitch it down, I can. And then, you know, I can adjust the decay. Maybe that's just too much. Right? And notice how we can sweep the frequencies and even just, you know, align them so we can get, you know, a really cool sound. So, yeah, all of this is just tweakable. This is why this machine is super cool, because you can tweak the controls of both oscillators. Now, I'm going to go back to default for now. And maybe a little bit more decay. Now, right here, you get your noise, and just like the previous rim shot, is not super noisy, but you get it, you know. You can go up in noise or down in noise, and you get your tick, which is your initial transient. And that's it. And then again, you can crush it with the overdrive. Now, this one has a lot more control than this one, but if you ask me, this one sounds like a rim shot, analog rim shot, you know, drum machine rim shot, right out of the box. The other one is just a little bit more, I want to say exotic. It's just a little bit more controllable, and you can create other type of sounds, which is, you know, that's the actual point. You can just, you know, tweak the controls to make it sound like something else. All right, so let's keep. Forward, we are almost done with the analog ones. So I'm going to go to noise. Noise is just, you know, super cool. So this can work as a noise generator, or you can filter the noise and create a motion. So you get your standard controls right here, this one and this one. You get your sweep time and your depth. For now, I'm going to go all the way down on this ones. I don't care. Maybe this one needs to stay at 0, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. I'm going to just leave it at 0. Remember that doing function is going to take you to, you know, values, you know, there you go. And if I play this, it's just going to be noise. So if I play it, the noise goes up and then goes down. So then you have your envelope control, which is the amp of the noise generator, is the attack and the decay. How fast is going to be decaying? Well, it's going to be the decay. So if I do something like this, it's going to be super short. If I make it long, it's going to take a long time to decay in volume, no? We're going down in volume. And then the other one is the attack. Is going to sweep up and then go down. Maybe the level is a little bit too much, so you can handle the level from here. And you're going to go down. Because, you know, the noise is just sometimes too much. You have a lot of higher frequencies. So if you make it really smooth and then decay it, it's gonna, really go up really slow, and then it's gonna take some time to go down. So this again is your amp control for this. So not only that, you get the filters. So if you wanted to chop the low frequencies, notice that we can chop them. And if you want, with the other controls, with the F and the G, you can chop the higher frequencies. And you even get a resonance control. So you can add a peak right there. All right, it's a very cool noise generator. Now I'm gonna go to something a little bit faster, something like that. All right. So then what you get is going to be the S-Dep and the S-Team. So this one is the sweep time, and it's going to be the sweep depth. So maybe you've been watching and you're not starting on this section. The other generators, the other machines, they have these controls to modulate the pitch of whatever machine that we are using. But this is a noise generator. We don't have a pitch, but we do have a cutoff. So this will make the cutoff modulate up or down or up, just like this. And I'm gonna maybe do something like that. I'm gonna do a little bit of attack, and then a little bit of decay, something like that. And I'm gonna go down in noise, volume. So when I play it, we can see that the peak of the resonance right there. And it goes up and then goes down. So this ones will decide how that modulation is gonna go. If I go all the way up on the sweep time, nothing is gonna happen because I'm not using this control. This one decides how far it goes up or down. If we go negatively, to the negative side of things, is going to modulate it. I need to press and hold. Just like that. Start sweeping from, down and then up. Right? Maybe I'm gonna reduce the attack and go up in level. Now, if I go to the other side and I'm gonna go down a level, to the positive side is going to do the same thing, but it's going to modulate it up and then down. And we can see the sweep right there. Right? And again, the time is going to decide how fast the sweep is. I'm going to go to lower ones because it's just a little bit easier to hear. I'm going to go slow, all the way 0 on this one, and we get nothing. So really fast, a little bit slower, and super slow. So that's it, that's the noise generator. And it's just not a noise generator. We just don't get, noise and we just filter. The fact that we can, modulate this with something, it's, really, really cool. Now, the next one. is going to be the impulse. And this one is pretty simple. Now, the impulse is just going to be a short click sound. If I, again, stand right here and just play it, make sure that you have the default values. I'm going to play it. It's just going to be a click. Just a very short click. So this is an impulse. You might use it to trigger something, or maybe just to add a click to some other sound sources, some other machines. Pretty simple. Now, again, you might never use this one in your life, right? But again, at the end of the day, this one is just going to be a tiny little impulse. Now, you can go up in level, and I'm going to just do that. And it is on the oscilloscope. It's just showing me, a version of this. And you have the polarity. You can go up, or you can go all the way down in polarity. Notice it changes the waveform. Maybe it's not so. Yeah, so maybe it's not showing. I will need to adjust the oscilloscope, but that's fine. So this one, the transient, the impulse is going to be up, and in this case, it's down. It's going to be down and then up. So it changes how the impulse works. Now then again, just you have the envelope, which is going to make it, sweep slower and decay faster or slower. Now, since this is an impulse, it's going to be very short, right? So you can adjust this as much as you want, but still, it's going to be super short. That's the idea of an impulse. Now, one of the most common examples, I'm going to do something like that, is going to be going to the filter and maybe just sweep and add a little bit of resonance. And just, get a different tone. You can see how it's going on the spectrum. If you want to use an envelope, you can just generate this type of sounds. So again, but you might never use this in your life if you don't want to. All right, it's just a different tool, another tool that you get. All right, so let's. About the synth sounds that we get on the analog section. We start with the dual VCO. I'm going to say yes and make sure that everything is default. So as soon as you play this, you play it and it's going to be a constant sound, and it's because the decay right here is all the way open, so it works just like a standard synthesizer. If you play it, the oscillators will play and they will never ever stop. So when you're using the dual VCO, you can just manage right here. We're going to talk about this in a second. But if I go to the amp, we can maybe use this as an ADSR type of, envelope. Maybe I can use an ADSR right here and then just use it as a standard ADSR controls for the, for the synthesizer. Maybe I can make the decay shorter and less release, and then it just works like it standard synthesizer. That's the idea. So if I go back to the synth, for now, I'm just going to keep it like that. Maybe I'm going to go sustain all the way up, but less release. So if I hold it and release it, we get that sound. So I'm going to be going back to the synth. Now we have different controls. So we have an oscillator number 1 and an oscillator 2. We have 2 oscillators. And you can see it right there on the configuration. We're going to talk about this in a minute. So you get the 1 and you get the 2. And for now, I'm just going to go all the way down. I'm going to scroll all the way down. And what you get is 2 sine waves. So if I play it, we just get 2 sine waves. Now, the oscillator number 1 and the number 2 are going to be detuned from each other by default. So this controls the tune of pretty much everything. Oscillator 1 and then oscillator number 2, right? So this is something that you need to know. Now the detune, the det, is going to detune the oscillator 2 only. So I can just move all this and just detune it, make it, offset it, and make that, type of, unison sound, or just, detune it to get different intervals. You can go all the way up to 16 or all the way down to 16. Now remember that doing funk is going to take you to different values, and you can use the chromatic mode, right, just to play the synth sound. And that's pretty much it, you know. Now we have a lot more, but this is the most basic part. You just set your waveform, and then you just detune it if you want, and then you need to decide the balance because you have two oscillators. I'm gonna go to this one and go. Maybe I'm gonna go all the way up. So going to this one is going to be oscillator number 1, and all the way right here is gonna be the oscillator number 2. So you need to decide the blend of the oscillators, right? How much of the 1 and the 2 you want. All right. So this is like the main controls. Now, then you get this one, which is the configuration. So maybe you're thinking, okay, so, you know, we get just, you know, pretty raw waveforms. Yes, but you have a combination of waveforms. So if I play it, and I keep playing it, I'm going to maybe do a 50% of both, and I'm going to go down on this one. I'm going to go 12. I'm going to do it with function. All right. So I'm going to be playing it. We get the oscillator number 1 and the 2. Now this one will change the waveforms. Now the main difference is that the oscillator number 1 only gives you a sine and a sine saw. But the oscillator number 2 is going to give you a sine, a skewed sine, a triangle, a sine saw, and a saw. So the oscillator number 2 knows a lot more waveforms. How this works is that when you move this, the first oscillator is going to go through all the different combinations of oscillator number 2 and oscillator number 1. We go from a sine to a saw. Just actually a skew sine. This one is the skew sine. So it's sine, skew sine, then triangle. As we keep going up, notice that the oscillator number 1 always stays at the sine wave. We go to the sine saw, and then it's gonna be a saw. Now then, if you keep moving forward, now the oscillator number 2, remember it only knows 2 waveforms. So it's a sine. Now, as soon as we move this, it's going to be a sine saw. So we start again, sine saw, combination of sine saw, and a combination of just a sine wave on the oscillator number 2. If we keep going up, we get, you know, we go through all the different combinations of oscillator number 1 and oscillator number 2. Now, as soon as we cross this point, which is the last combination of the 1 and the 2 that we could do, which is two saws, we go to, this one is the last combination, we go and enter into the ring modulation world. So the oscillator number 1, now it's going to be modulated by the 2. And again, it's going to be ring modulation. So for now, I'm just going to do this. Now, if I go to the balance, if I go all the way to the 1, you're going to get that. Now, the 2 is ring modulating the first one. Maybe it's a little bit loud. I'm going to go down in volume. I go back to the synth. If I go to the number 2, notice that what the 2 is doing pretty much nothing. Is you know, just a sine saw in this case. It's a skew sine wave. I'm going to go to sine wave. So as I go to the other side, the other one is a sine, but, you know, we are ring modulating this. Now, remember that when we use ring modulation, you get a cool sound when you offset the oscillators and the tuning of the oscillators, right? But this is what it means. The R, it means ring modulation, and is using the oscillator number 2 to ring modulate it. And then you just can do a combination of both, right? Now, as soon as we keep going up, you go through all the different combinations that you have available, just like, you know, we have right here. We go to the combinations of ring modulation, and at some point, you're going to be entering into the FM world. So now the oscillator number 1 is going to be the carrier, and the oscillator number 2 is going to be the modulator, right? Just FM. And if I play it, it's going to sound like this. Now, what changes right here is going to be the balance. If I go to the oscillator number 1, notice that we get something pretty dull. It sounds almost like a sine wave, but still, you know, there's something different. Now, if I go all the way to the other one, we get much more. So the important thing right here is going to be the balance, because now, since you have an FM type of synthesizer, oscillator, you have the carrier and the modulator. the modulator will never go out. Cannot hear the modulator. You only hear the carrier. So you cannot do a balance. But the balance is going to work as a depth control. So if I play it and go all the way up, now we are getting the full depth of the 2 modulating the 1. If I go to the negative side, we just get, the waveform without frequency modulation. The carrier is not being modulated by the modulator. So this acts as a depth control. So this is depth all the way down. And as we go here, we get more depth, more frequency modulation, more, and all the way up. Now, right here again, you can choose different combinations. Now the triangle is modulating the sine, and so on, and so on, and so on. Right. So pretty cool. Now, then what you get, if you keep moving forward, you keep going up, you get a combination of FM and ring modulation. So the 1, if I do this, something like this, the 1, they go all the way 1, is going to be more the ring, and the 2 is going to be more the FM side. But you just do a combination, and you need to offset the oscillators. That way it's going to sound really cool. Right. Now, as you keep going up on this one, you're going to be getting more intensity because you have waveforms with more harmonics. So it's just going to get, a little bit louder. Right, so you can go really crazy with this. Now it looks like a very simple synthesizer, a very simple, machine, but you do have a lot of power, frequency and ring modulation, frequency modulation, then just ring, and then, a combination of different oscillators. All right, so gonna start from the, the default sound that you get, and you get a decay, and you get a decay too. So this decay, I'm gonna go to all the way to the 1. As soon as I play it, remember that we are using the amp. I can go all the way up in the amp and then go back to synth. And if I play it, it's just gonna constantly playing because there is no decay. So I can adjust the decay of the number 1, and when I re-trigger this, it's just gonna be, we can control the decay within the machine and not the amp if we don't want to. Same thing with the number 2. If I go to the number 2 stays open. So if I make a blend between them both, we get the first one, and then the second one, it's constantly playing. But we can make it maybe a little bit longer when we play it, and then have the 2 decay a little bit slower. So we can, do a combination of this. Now this is super useful because this oscillator has FM. So remember that the modulator, the carrier, is going to be affected if the envelope of the modulator is different. So since right now we are modulating the oscillator number 1, which is completely open, but this one going all the way up on the decay is going to be changing how the modulator works. Maybe I can do a tiny little bit, and it is just completely different. I'm gonna go over there and do right, and if I keep it all the way open just like before, it's gonna be again constant. So again, all of this is just FM, the FM type of world. So you need to decide what you want to do with this. Now I'm gonna start again from with the default synth, with the default machine, and we get the default sound. And I'm gonna be going to the amp and doing a little bit of release. All right. So the next thing that you get is gonna be the overdrive. You can really crush it, but you have something right here called bend. So this would be like a type of glide or portamento. If I go up, notice that it's pitching. Now, since we go up clockwise, it's going to be pitching up, but if I go down, it's going to go down and up, and then up and down. Down and up, and up and down. It's like a, it's like a modulation. I want to say portamento. It's a modulation for the pitch. Now, you cannot decide the time. That would be cool. The time is fixed. So So you can only decide how much up and how much down you go. That's the only thing you can do. Right. Right, so hopefully you understood this one. It's a really you know, a really cool machine, and you could do a bunch of things. Now, if you want something a little bit simpler, you can go to the synth or SY raw. This one is going to be a little bit more traditional. So you get 2 waves, and as you could guess, we get 2 oscillators. You can manage the waveform of the one and manage the waveform of the number 2. You get a tune. Now I'm going to be playing it. This is how it sounds. Remember, we are using an amp right here going down in the release. So the detune is going to be for the oscillator number 2, and this one is going to be pretty much the tune for everything, right? Just like the other one works. Maybe we can do a little bit of that unison vibe. Okay. Now, the main difference right here is that the level, you get a level, and the levels for the number 2. So maybe if I just want to use one oscillator, I go down level, and we just get the oscillator number 1, which is this one. All right? Pretty simple. But if you want the number 2, and I'm going to be detuning this 1 octave down, we get the oscillator number 2 and the oscillator number 1. And you can decide the level of the 2. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, so we just get waveforms and that's it. Yeah, you do, but there's something else. You get a lot of waveforms, but for the oscillator number 1, you get 6 waveforms, and for the oscillator number 2, you get 7, right? So the waveforms are, it's going to be sine wave, then you get a sine, you know, an asymmetric sine wave, then you get a triangle, and then, you know, a sine saw, then a saw, and then a square. And then as you keep moving forward, we have the same ones, but remember you get the icon right there, which is the re-trigger, which is something that I didn't explain now that I remember. On this, you know, we get the re-trigger right there. So, you know, all right, so again, you get your sine and your square. It's just the same waveforms, but again, these ones are going to be re-triggering, and this ones without the square or the anchor at the beginning are going to be free running. So again, I'm going to go all the way down and all the way down on this one. If I keep going up, we have the same waveforms, but we have a 7th waveform. So this 7th is going to be ring modulation. So we're going to use it to ring modulate the number 1. Now, for now, I'm just going to be, doing something like this. And it's very simple. You choose the oscillator for the oscillator number 1, the waveform for the oscillator number 1, and then the waveform for the oscillator number 2 if you just want to use it. And you just select your tune. And there you go. You have a, a synthesizer. Now, when you go to the ring one, this one, that is how it's going. So if I go all the way down, you're just getting the 1, right? So the 1, and then for now, I'm just gonna go all the way down on the on this ones. But on the number 2, I'm gonna use ring modulation. So as soon as I do so, and I'm all the way down in the level of the number 2. So this one is ring modulating the wave 1. So we don't get the number 2. What we get is going to be a sine wave. Maybe you can hear it right there at the back. I'm gonna go up, down. We don't get it. Look at a low tone. If I go all the way down, we can really hear that. If we go down, right? So we are modulating it with still, we are modulating this with the oscillator. Okay,